Welcome all of you to the Forum on Law, Culture, and Society's spring conversation this year. And this one is very different for us, in part because we're being hosted with the book committee of the City Bar Association in such an August setting. And of course we have C-SPAN. How cool is that? So you're all part of this, and we're very grateful that you're here. We have very interesting, distinguished group of special guests, and I'll introduce them quickly, and then we'll set up the themes for the night, and we'll begin the conversation. Starting off to my far right is one of America's best-known criminal defense attorneys. His most recent success, and a case, of course, one of the classic ones for the celebrated Benjamin Brafman, was the defense of Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Everyone, please welcome Benjamin Brafman. And this woman to my right, very lovely, Kathleen Hogan, may not look it, but she is the toughest prosecutor in New York State. She was actually just recently selected as the best prosecutor in New York State. She's the district attorney for Warren County, which is up in Lake George. It seems like a mild area, but they have crime, and nobody messes with her. And so Kate is here to discuss this book, as if you know anything about the themes of this book. The role of the prosecutor is a huge part of what the vengeance story is about. And so let's welcome Kathleen Hogan, a man who generally needs no introduction when it comes to a legal affair. The Honorable Denny Chin, who is now on the federal appeals bench for the Second Circuit. And prior to that, he was a federal district judge in the Southern District of New York. He's also the first Chinese American who was appointed to the federal bench, both the trial court and the appellate court. And for many of you, you may remember him as the sentencing judge in the case of Bernard Madoff, and we'll definitely be talking about that. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Denny Chin. And last, on our far left, my far left, a good friend of ours here at the Forum, Daniel Jonah Goldhagen, who is an internationally best-selling author and political scientist. You may remember what his first book was truly a national sensation, international sensation, Hitler's Willing Executioners, Ordinary Germans, and the Holocaust. And then he followed that up with A Moral Reckoning. And then he followed that up with what is considered the definitive book on genocide, Worse Than War, which was also made into a PBS documentary of the same name, Worse Than War. And his forthcoming book is The Devil That Never Dies. It's a book about global anti-Semitism. It comes out in the fall. Please welcome Daniel Jonah Goldhagen. Now, we're at a long table, as it looks. I'm not actually seated, but I'm in the middle, and it's April still, and it's only, a few weeks away from Easter, and it sort of looks like a Last Supper of sorts. And I'm in the middle, and I have long hair, and I'm a Jew, and I teach at a Jesuit university. I think you know where we're going. I fully expect to be betrayed tonight, if not worse than that, because these are four of my friends, and this is going to be a very challenging discussion and a very provocative discussion. We are here today because of sorry, Kate, I'm borrowing this, I'll give it right back. Because of this book with this provocative title, Payback, The Case for Revenge. It has a blood red cover, jacket no less. It was written by, as far as I could tell, a maniac, an absolute sociopath. And I think that when this is over, we should find this Thane Rosenbaum and subject him to a true mob vengeance. But the book does have a number of provocative themes, and the night it will really belong to our guests to challenge those themes. It's already received a fair amount of attention. You can go, it was already on NPR and a number of other outlets, BBC. And it's partly because people feel that even the discussion of revenge is unseemly. It's barbaric. It's primitive. You can't actually have an honest conversation about revenge in the United States. Immediately, it augurs back to a primitive past. It's when the world pre-Enlightenment, before we became civilized. But the book's claim is that vengeance is a healthy emotion. It's biologically necessary. It, in fact, is responsible very much for the evolution of our species. We are a people that are wired. The book is filled with neuroscientific studies that remind us that we are hardwired biologically, our brain circuitry, for retaliation, for fairness. We simply cannot tolerate injustice. We cannot tolerate the wrongdoer getting away with murder. That's one of the allures of the revenge film. I mean, revengeance is supposed to be so filled with shame and condemnation. Nobody ever walks out of a revenge film saying, this is disgusting, it's about vengeance. People actually settle in, and they won't leave until justice is done. They won't go anywhere because they know that a wrong must be righted. And this is something that has sustained the human species for generations. Biblical people understood this. The ancient Greeks understood this. Aristotle said, if you can't get mad from receiving moral injury and requiring the field a measure for measure of payback, then that's a sign of deficient moral character. There's something wrong with you if you actually experience moral injury and that you just walk away as if it doesn't bother you. Now, the legal system we pay special attention to in this book because vengeance really speaks to an emotional experience, the cathartic experience of getting even, of knowing that you've confronted the person who's done you harm and you've judged him to say, we have to settle this score. Just desserts must happen. Payback is due. And that this is so essential, but that we forfeited this when we joined the world of the Enlightenment and the social contract, and we said that the government will take over the responsibility of prosecuting and punishing crimes. And the question in this book is, well, is the government doing that? Why are people walking around saying that we live in a world of injustice if, in fact, the legal system is doing its job? Why isn't it that the legal system gives us an opportunity, gives victims an opportunity to simulate the revenge experience, to give them the emotional release of having the satisfaction, the true sense of vengeful satisfaction that I stand confronting you and I need to have my just desserts. There's a debt owed to this society, and there's a debt that's equally owed to the victim, and that we only seem to be concerned about the debt that's owed to society, and we drastically shortchange the payment that is otherwise due. So that is the opening themes, and I was going to start off, and we're going to have a full conversation here, so you'll see the cameras will go back and forth. One claim in the book, which I think is perhaps one of the most controversial claims, is that justice and vengeance are actually identical, that they mean the same thing, but we've been duped into being told we want justice, we don't want vengeance, we would never want vengeance. So in the first chapter, I talk about examples of where people say this, but it seems disingenuous. It seems like they mean both, but they're only saying one. The two quickest anecdote is one from right after 9/11 when President George W. Bush announced in an address to the nation, but principally before the FBI. This is just essentially before the shock and awe that would eventually visit Iraq, but first was Afghanistan. He said, "We are a nation that pursues and seeks justice and not vengeance." And the country applauded, as if that's us, that's the way America rolls. We're not vengeful. And then we bombed the hell out of another country, right? It seemed vengeful. It didn't seem that it was only based on justice, or maybe it was the same. Maybe the justice was vengeance. Just last week, President Obama, in the immediate aftermath of the Boston Marathon bombings, announced, he said, when we locate these people, and he had nothing favorable to say about these people, and he said, they will eventually feel the full weight of our justice. And then when the first bomber was killed, there was dancing and jubilation in the streets of Boston. And today, although we're still deciding what kind of justice Tsarnaev will receive, there is some sense that what will be just will also feel vengeful, that will experience the emotional satisfaction of getting even and do justice at the same time. So let's start off by saying, well, what about this idea that justice and vengeance are essentially the same, that we spend so much time with verbal gymnastics, all this choreography, trying